political leader of the region, and he's still in office. So when you start campaigning for your office, for his position, and he has 3 years to go, as far as I'm concerned, what you're doing is disrespecting him. And as much as we can argue that...
disrespecting him, and this may not sound very nice, but it's not illegal.
It is not.
This is a democracy. People are allowed to hold their different views.
Exactly. And that's the reason why we are not saying that what he's doing is illegal. We're just telling him that he's doing what the president is telling him not to do.
But you are saying other things, including the fact that you will humiliate any leader who comes into your area to campaign. And we'll get into that shortly. But just as we conclude on the matters of the state, you said you will embarrass them. You spoke both in Swahili and in Kikuyu, but we'll return to that later. Let's just conclude with the matter of the strenuous relationship or marriage within Jubilee. Do you see that also causing a significant challenge in the working relationship between the president and the deputy president? And if so, what then becomes of the pledges that Jubilee made at the last election?
There's the two things. First and foremost, I don't think right now we have a working relationship between the president and the deputy president. You
do not think that there is a working relationship?
I don't think it exists.
You think it has completely fallen apart?
Why do I say this? Today, I was just discussing with a friend of mine how the deputy president was at the coast, and he launched some project, LAPSET project. And I'm thinking to myself, today is Sunday. So you go and launch a government project on a Sunday, and you have no government officials with you.
But you're a government official yourself.
But you see, you're not the implementing person. If you notice, every time a project is launched, you have a cabinet secretary who is in charge of that project. You have a permanent secretary, the CS, the PS, you have government officials, county commissioners, because when you launch a project, somebody else has to make sure it actually takes off. So, in my opinion, when I see the deputy president launching that project, and I'm thinking, you're actually not launching a project, you're doing a political event around a project.
Isn't it the president himself who famously, or is it infamously, said that let the deputy president go around Tangatanga doing exactly what you're talking about, launching projects?
I don't think, okay, in my opinion, what the president was saying that at that moment, and that's close to a year ago, was a friendly warning to his assistant, was, you're Tangatanga, you're going around doing projects, but if you follow what has happened since then, and what the president has said since then, you get the feeling that that was not a positive statement. It was more of a warning statement. Now, the fact that the deputy president and his team decided to pick it and make it a brand, in my opinion, it actually shows the amount of contempt the deputy president has to the president at this moment in time.
But let's talk about the fact that when the deputy president, he goes there as the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya, certainly with political ambitions, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
But you cannot say that by him launching a project without being accompanied by anyone else, then it is not a government project. Who is more government than the executive?
You see, there's something called semantics in politics, and I can very comfortably, if you have a list of government projects, nothing stops you from going around to every particular place where a project is going to be launched and saying it will be launched or launching it. I come from Nyeri. The deputy president has been to a road in Kieni that he's launched 3 times. Same road, different parts. Why? Because you need to meet 3 different groups of people. So you identify and you get 3 different stops and you launch the same road. What we are seeing, and I think what broke the relationship between the president and the deputy president, in my opinion, was a politicization of development. Because when you start using development to do campaigns, then it means you're facing a very likely possibility of what happened to Tuju in Arieda a few years back when he was a member of parliament. So you actually go and do development, but because you're politicizing it and people there don't support your political position, they don't accept it.
But what evidence do you have that there is no working relationship between the president and his deputy? And if that is the case, is this an administration that should be allowed to proceed and go forward? Is it time to dissolve the cabinet, for instance?
No, 2 things. First and foremost, there's nothing in the law that says that the deputy president and the president must have a working relationship. Remember, the deputy president
they must work.
No, there's nothing the deputy president is supposed to do. The deputy president's role is to be a principal assistant of the president and to do those errands or assignments that he's given by the president. That actually foresees...
He's irrelevant?
But for all intents and purposes, a deputy president in most circumstances is irrelevant unless there's a crisis. So if you have, because the president is the one who's answerable. He's a commander-in-chief. Remember, there's no assistant commander-in-chief. The president is the one. The reason we have a deputy president is in case something happens to the president. There's no particular assignment, constitutional assignment that the deputy president is given. His only role is to be the principal assistant. And if you understand the meaning of the word assistant, he's meant to assist the president. Meaning, you're supposed to be given assignments by the president and assist him. There's no way you have your own agenda unless the president gives you a ministry.
Why should a government that is at dysfunction at that level continue to sit as presently constituted? We've already seen, but there is dysfunction.
How?
For instance, you've already said that the top two are not working together. But couple add to that the fact that we also saw in the cabinet just months ago, you know, the talk of allegations of assassination that literally split the cabinet in half. You know, part of it being accused of having being part of a group that is plotting the assassination of the deputy president. In that kind of dysfunction, is that a government that should continue and that could actually deliver on the pledges that it made Kenyans?
I think there's a mistake you're making, Anne. The deputy president is not the government.
He's a part of it.
Yes, but he's just a part of it. If we were having a problem between the president and cabinet secretaries, remember the deputy president doesn't have a role that he's playing. He doesn't have a particular assignment. He doesn't have a ministry. So there's nothing actually he does. So the fact that he's unhappy about what's going on in government, the fact that he thinks that people are meeting to kill him, doesn't in any way affect how government operates.
Should the president keep him if they're not talking?
I think that's a decision that the president has to make.
What is your opinion?
I think I am seeing a very rebellious person to the president. If I was a president, I don't think I would figure out how to ask him to shape up or shape out. But I'm not the president.
All right. Let's talk about Central Kenya politics, and we've seen that split playing out. Has President Kenyatta lost control of Central Kenya, do you think?
Absolutely
Has he lost his grip?
Not possible.
Why is there then such a fierce struggle for what you called on your Facebook page, quote, the fight for the political soul of our region? Why would there be a fight for it if he's in control?
There is a fight for the political soul of a region for this purpose. Mount Kenya region has 6 million votes. Politics is about numbers. Now, if Mount Kenya as a bloc votes for any presidential candidate in 2022, you're like over halfway across the finishing line. But if Mount Kenya as a bloc votes against you in 2022, you're not going anywhere. So what I'm seeing is that, remember, first and foremost, the deputy president was operating on the assumption that he already had the Mount Kenya bloc until maybe a year ago. And the way he did it, when you walk around with the assumption that this is my region, this is my bloc, and then all of a sudden, some of us wake up and tell you, you know, there's no guarantee that you're actually going to get this region the way you think. So now we are back into a fight because we have some members of the deputy president's team already out there saying this region belongs to the deputy president. We have some of us who are insisting, no, this region hasn't changed. It still belongs to Uhuru Kenyatta until he's finished with his term, and most probably a few years after that.
But we've never seen such a fierce challenge of the president in the Mount Kenya region as we are now. We've got leaders saying that they are not getting development. We have got, almost what appears to be all-out war between, you know, different factions
or sections. Let me take you back, because this is, I hear people saying that and feeling very shocked. I think it's because we have very short political memories. Matiba and Kibaki in the 90s had something very similar.
That was not against President Kenyatta, which is my point.
Yes, but you see, at that moment in time, we didn't have a president. We didn't have a president from our region. Right now, what we have is a president from our region, and that's what makes us, of those of us who call ourselves Kileweke, so upset, because we have a president. What are we fighting about? We have a president, because in the 90s, we were fighting to get into the presidency. Now, we are in the presidency. We are fighting to take over the presidency, and we're asking ourselves, how are we fighting to take over a presidency that we already have? At what point do we as Mount Kenya region start fighting to take over this presidency?
Why,
it already belongs to us. Do you not find
it problematic to refer to the president as something that the Mount Kenya region has? Regardless of where he comes from, he's the president of everyone. So why speak in such terms to take over a presidency that we already have, as if it is
because I'm a politician,
little something that you put in?
Because I'm a politician from Mount Kenya. I was elected to represent the interests of Nyeri town, which is a section of Mount Kenya. Our interests are very specific. If I came from Western, I would be saying something different. If I came from the coast, I would be saying something different. If you come from Rift Valley right now, if you look at the members of parliament from Rift Valley, their conversation is about, we are the ones who are taking it over. So that's the problem with our politics, and that's the reality that we have to face up. Our politics is very ethnic, and we just have to learn.
Are you not perpetuating that same ethnic politics
you see,
and
a politician is a realist
of the presidency?
A politician has to be a realist. You cannot pretend to what is not there. Right now, we have a situation where, why we had the handshake and the country come down is because when Raila shook hands with Uhuru, the section that believed Uhuru was not their president accepted him. That is a reality of our politics.
Why is Central Kenya politics taking a violent turn?
I think first and foremost we're getting intolerant, which is very sad. I think we're seeing a lot of intolerance, but a lot of that is because leaders on both sides believe they have a responsibility of determining what direction the people who voted for them should go. Now, is that a correct thing? I don't actually completely agree with it, but that is
and yet you perpetuate it. Yet you're the same person who goes out and has your supporters stop a cabinet secretary from launching a water project.
Actually, that's not true.
In the region, you're the same person whose supporters go out and stop a women's movement, regardless of who they're supporting, from having their event.
That's the problem.
And then write and say we are not going to allow 2022 politics.
That's
in
the problem.
Our region.
First and foremost, I never stopped a CS from launching a project. I arranged that meeting. I mobilized for that meeting. I'm the one who had paid for everything you saw in that meeting. The CS launched the project, 200 million shillings, which was money that was given by Uhuru Kenyatta's government.
He was jeered away.
No, he wasn't.
Yes, he was.
He was jeered when he tried to play politics. But actually, for those who followed that story and the locals who come from Nyeri, they know that the jeer stopped. I stopped the jeering.
When you stood on the platform and he had to walk away.
No, I actually called him and he spoke. And he finished speaking. And when he finished speaking and wanted to do politics again, I told him, Bwana CS, we're here because of this project. We will not do politics. If you're done, the meeting is finished.
What about the event that was for the women rep of the area? And, you know, she was supported by other leaders. Granted, this is the Inua Mama movement, which lobbies for the deputy president. Alice Wahome, the Kandara legislator, who was one of the speakers at the event, went ahead to say, quote, he tried to intimidate us, he being you.
Yes.
But we gave him a rude welcome, and they were pointing to the fact that first the meeting was disrupted by a bunch of young people who were irate.
Actually, no.
Then you come in and you stand there defiantly.
How do you...
You stood there defiantly, refused to move.
This is a problem.
And this was not your event, and your presence there was seen as intimidation of those women.
That was a public event. Two, it was not a women's event. They were giving mechanics jackets. They were giving some people we call bebas.
It was organized by Inua Dad.
It was organized by
Inua Mama.
Inua Mama. Yes, it was organized by Inua Mama. It was in my constituency. I don't think anybody expects that you do a public event in Nyeri Town constituency and I cannot attend. That's the first thing. Remember, I'm the
but it wasn't your meeting. It doesn't matter.
It's not about being a meeting. It was their meeting. Nothing stops me from attending unless it was not a private function. It was a public function. I went for that meeting as one of the people who come from Nyeri.
In this sort of heated political atmosphere, when you have a bunch of young people jeering down the leaders who are there, who for all intents and purposes were holding a peaceful meeting.
Actually, they were not being jeered by young people, they were being jeered by women.
Fair enough, whether they were, whoever it was, sponsored, allegedly by yourself. That's in order to cause that commotion. But you have separately gone on to say that you're not going to allow politics to take part in Nyeri Town. What gives you the authority to make a statement like that?
What gives me the authority is because if you're going to come and have a political event in Nyeri Town constituency, I will attend it. And I will tell you to your face that this is the wrong time to be doing premature politics. Why? Because I do not want you to split Nyeri Town constituency into camps. I will tell you. Now, that's my right. It's a freedom of expression.
Is that the same thing Dindinyoro did the other day in
Actually,
in
no, because first and foremost, it wasn't a political event we were in. Remember, Inua Dada was a political event. The CS's event was a political, well, that one. The CS's event was a political event. What we saw with Dindinyoro, and I was in that event, was actually a church event that he interrupted. And I'm glad to hear today that he actually went back to the same place and he apologized. I actually think he did an extremely good job.
Let me read this quote and just put it to you again, because I would like to get a definitive answer of what exactly it is you are saying. You have said, I'm sorry, but 2022 Siasa in Nyeri constituency at this time is no. And I am asking, what gives you the right to dictate that it is a no at this point in a democratic society where people are free to listen to whatever they want to listen to? If you disagree with what they are saying, why attend and cause commotion?
I don't cause commotion.
Your presence certainly brings something.
My statement is that if you come to Nyeri, I will attend that event.
With the sole purpose of shouting them down and
no,
telling them they're
but
not,
I never shout anybody down. I have never shouted anybody down.
Well, you always bring it to a standstill.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
You see, the assumption here is where you told me I walked in and I did what to the women?
I beg your pardon?
There's a word you used about that I walked into that meeting